All right, welcome tonight, and I just want to send out a happy adoption month to all of you, because whether or not you're in the phase of adoption that you hope to be at this point, you are all to be celebrated as we recognize adoption this month of November, because you are already very personally touched by adoption. And I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Libby Murray, and I am part of Lifetime Adoptions team. And joining me tonight as my co-host is Kim King, one of our adoptive family coordinators. Kim, are you there?
Yep. Hey, everyone.
Wonderful. I'm very excited about tonight's guest, and I just think this time of year brings a lot of different feelings, different goals, different dreams, also different realities sometimes set in. But with it being National Adoption Awareness Month, and also as we're approaching the holiday season, I'm very excited to welcome Samantha tonight to share her story of how they longed for a child and attempted to build their family, and then were eventually moved to adopt. And then just this, what did we say, 6 weeks ago today, Kim?
6 weeks ago.
Their baby boy was born. So Samantha, I just want to welcome you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you there?
I am. Thank you.
Great. For any of you who are new to webinars, I just want to go over a couple of the basics. As many of you have already found out, you can type right there to us. During the call, if you have questions, Samantha's more than happy to answer them for you on our broadcast tonight. And if you need more information, and maybe it's something that would be better addressed one-on-one, then Kim and I will do our very best to keep up with you and your comments and questions during our broadcast tonight. But you can also follow up with us either by calling or emailing, or you can chat live too. If you're already working with Lifetime, the best thing to do is to contact your personal coordinator directly, and you likely have her email on hand. But if you don't exactly know who your coordinator is, you can always reach out to us at Lifetime. You can contact us. My brain just bleeped. You can reach out to info@lifetimeadoption.com, or you can always personally email Kim or me. My email is Libby, Libby, @lifetimeadoption.com, and Kim is Kim, Kim, @lifetimeadoption.com. And our phone number is 530-432-7373. So, and many of you may not know this, but you can chat live right from lifetimeadoption.com too. So if you're more comfortable with that platform, I know that is really convenient for me when I have questions, but I want to multitask and not put it all aside to talk on the phone. You can also chat live with us online. So I want to go ahead and jump right in, and I'm going to start out by bringing up one of the amazing photos that Samantha shared with us tonight. Samantha, let's go ahead and just start talking about what brought you and your husband Tom to adoption in general. What did you go through before you guys actually decided to start pursuing adoption?
Well, Tom and I always kind of knew that we wanted to adopt. We have some family members who were adopted or who have fostered and whatnot. So we kind of had already been exposed to it and thought, that would be something we'd really like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then after experiencing some infertility, we went through 6 IUIs and 3 IVFs that were failed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I think we finally decided, all right, it's time, let's do it. So we started looking into it and originally went with international adoption, which we just decided was not for us. And then our social worker had presented us with looking more into domestic adoption. And I'm really glad we did, because I did a lot of research and I found Lifetime was very pleased and really liked the Christian background. And that's how we got started with Lifetime.
I think one of the reasons your story just strikes home with so many tonight, or it will, is just because you and Tom are just the average couple hoping to build your family. And when you're, like you said, it was recommended that you look into domestic adoption. So what had you already heard about adoption, and was it easy to take that leap, or were there concerns that you had that you thought, well, I thought it was going to be easier to adopt internationally? Um,
Sure.
what was on your
I
mind?
think if I can be very honest, I will say we chose international adoption because of all the hearsay, because of those, things that you hear from different people about domestic adoption. And, some of the things that I personally heard was, well, you're usually only going to get foster kids, and you're only going to get an older child, and it's hard to get a baby, or, they're going to be full African American. And, I just heard so many different things, and I think that that's what inspired me to go internationally. And then our social worker was like, no, it's really not like that. You should look into it. You should do your research. And so once I started to do the research, I realized that, a lot of that hearsay isn't true. So when I found Lifetime's website and found that infants are available, I think that really appealed to us, because I think naturally you just, as a first-time parent, you really want that infant stage. You want to experience all those things that, Tom and I were told that we couldn't have children together. So had we adopted a 2-year-old child or a 4-year-old child, we would have been over the moon and very excited. But I think that there's just a part of a first-time parent that really wants to know what that newborn experience is all about.
And that's a good point. So I know that you guys had thought about adoption in your future anyways. Had you ever talked to your families about the fact that you were thinking about adoption, and then when you actually decided to start pursuing it, did you have your family's full support when you decided we're going to build our family through adoption?
We did. Our family, both sides, my family and Tom's family, have been extremely supportive, and everybody's just been, super excited for us. And I don't think that neither my side or Tom's side ever felt, unsupportive or didn't agree with it by any means. We were very open with our race and with where the child could come from, because originally choosing international adoption. And our families have been so excited and supportive from the very beginning.
Wow, what a blessing to have that. When you did decide, okay, we're going to look at U.S., we're going to look at adopting the newborn that we're hoping for, had you guys heard of open adoption before you started researching? Was there anything that you had heard or that you were surprised to find out?
Yeah, I'm curious to know where was your heart and where was your brain with open adoption when you first turned to domestic adoption?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Once again, I'm going to be completely honest. And from the very beginning, we weren't so sure about that. We went into the process saying, I remember the first time we talked to our coordinator, I said, I'm really thinking we want to close adoption. And then we learned a little bit more about what an open adoption was, and we said, well, maybe we're okay with just sending some pictures, or maybe we're okay with just writing a letter updating the birth family about how the baby's doing. But I think that both of us felt it wasn't right for us. We didn't feel comfortable with it. We had a lot of selfish feelings. Looking back at it now, I would definitely call it that. We were scared. We were confused. We didn't really know what open adoption was. And the more I learned about it, the more I participated in, the webinars and the question and answers, and the more I did my own research and heard from other families, the more I realized that it's not so bad. It's not so scary. Each open adoption story is obviously different, but you're not necessarily having them over for Christmas dinner or inviting them to your son's birthday party or anything like that. You're basically just letting them know that their child's being loved and cared for, and that, you know, their child is doing this today, or, you know, that you took them on their first vacation to the beach or something like that. So when we've learned that it's more so like that, I think we let go of a lot of those selfish feelings.
So, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, like the idea that some people easily confuse open adoption with potentially co-parenting. So in your head, were you thinking, gosh, if we want to vaccinate for this or that, are we going to have to call and make sure they're on board with that if we're having an ongoing relationship? You know, were there concerns even after you knew the truth?
Oh, definitely. Right. And even, you know, in the beginning stages of us being matched and developing a relationship with the birth mom, you know, we kind of wondered, well, is it going to be okay if we choose the name that we chose? You know, like you kind of wonder all those things, because at the beginning of our process, I know I did. I was like, well, I already have names that I have picked out. I wonder if we're going to be able to name him that. And, you know, there's a lot of those kind of questions you wonder. And, that, yeah, we've definitely felt that way.
And so then you still decided, okay, we found Lifetime, we're going to start up. And I know that through that, you still were even thinking, well, we're going to say yes to that, but were you hoping maybe for a birth mother that just wanted to choose you during pregnancy and then sort of drift away?
We had a lot of people along the process. You know, I have some family friends who have adopted, but they adopted internationally. So, you know, they're not really familiar with the whole process. And just other people along the way who had told us that, who had said, well, you know, usually, you know, the birth mom will just be in contact for a little bit, and then they kind of die off, so to speak. You know, they kind of just, like, go off on their own, and they live their own life, and they're not really contacting me much. And I'm like, oh, okay. And at the time, I thought that sounded a little more appealing, because I didn't want to have to, quote-unquote, share the child. So I think the more I realized that it's not sharing, it's not co-parenting, I think the more I felt comfortable with our decision to have an open adoption.
And so then, was there anything as you guys decided to take that leap? You know, let's talk a little bit about, you know, now you're in the process. What was it like to be taking those first steps? You know, did you feel like, wow, it's going to happen? Or did you ever wonder, you know, are we on the right path? Are we ever going to become parents? You know, how did that look in those first few months, even after you decided, okay, yes, we found the people who are going to help us adopt, and now we're going to pursue that path? You know, did you still struggle believing that there's a baby at the end of this?
I think so. I really feel that those first few months, and even up until right before we were matched, I still had that emptiness inside, that longing for a family, that longing to be a mother and to have a family with Tom. It was definitely painful at moments, especially around the holidays, or Mother's Day, or when my other friends or family members would have their own babies. Yeah. I think that during the infertility stages, I was more so, I had a lot of hurt. I carried around a lot of burden. Once we started the adoption process, I feel that I kind of felt better about it, because I knew with the adoption, something good was going to come out of it. When we were going through infertility, it was a gamble. You never knew if it was going to work or not. You never knew if the cycle would be successful. Once we started the adoption process, we knew in the end we were going to have our family. But that time that you're waiting is still hard. It's you know, you want it to happen so bad, and you question, you know, why haven't I gotten chosen yet, or, you know, am I going to get picked this month, or how much longer is it going to be? But I think that knowing, adoption was different because you're actually going to have your child in the end helps us to get through it.
Samantha, there was something I've kind of been wondering about while you were talking. I know that when you first started your adoption journey, you got pretty into the process with international adoption. And the switch between international adoption and then going to domestic adoption, it's quite a change. Usually with international adoption, it's almost like you're choosing a child or you're just waiting for your turn to have the next referral of a child. But with domestic adoption, especially in Lifetime's program, you can be chosen at any time, and you have to be chosen, so you have to create a profile and everything. How was that change of gears for you? Was it hard to make that change? Was it something that you didn't expect, or what do you feel about that change?
I don't think it was really hard at all. I think it was, for me, I think it was kind of more exciting because I'm a teacher and I really enjoyed creating our portfolio and the video. And so I think that those types of things made me feel more connected to our process, made me feel more involved. And I think with the international adoption, had we continued to pursue that, like you said, we would have been like someone at the meat counter with a number. I don't feel that we would have been as connected to it during the process and the wait as we were with the domestic route.
And so I know in the beginning you said that choosing a place that supported your like-minded faith made a difference to you guys when it came to deciding, how are we going to take that step? How are we going to choose who helps us find our baby? How much of a role did your faith play when you were, like you said earlier, that the holidays and Mother's Day, they were still hard even though you were on your path toward your baby? Was faith an integral role of that? Basically, I guess I want to say, how is it that you got through all of that emotion, all of the waiting, that anxiety that comes up for a lot of families when they're just wondering, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen this month? Is it going to happen next month? What was that like for both you and Tom? And were you guys handling it the same way as you were moving towards your son?
I would say 100% of how I got through it was my faith. So when I would receive, little messages from Lifetime about, just trusting in the Lord and trusting in the process, that really helped me to stay in check and know that, our time is coming. I leaned on our church. I leaned on our reverend. Tom's grandmother played a really important role in our process because she just constantly reassured us that God had a plan for us. So there's no doubt about it. Our faith got us through it 100%. It was hard, especially during the holidays, especially during, Mother's Day, and just me being a teacher alone, getting to see children being dropped off every morning by their parents, and they get hugs and kisses, and sometimes drop-offs would be difficult, and they would cry and say, "Mommy, don't go," and just seeing that, it was hard. It was hard because I wanted that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily my child being sad that I'm leaving, but that was hard. And so just trusting in the Lord and knowing that our time was coming, it made a huge difference.
Well, what a gift for you to have someone who can remind you.
A manly man. He wouldn't necessarily admit that, he was feeling grief or sadness through it, but he did.
Yeah. For the men who are joining us tonight on the call, when you look at how Tom handled that, do you think that part of what have been hard for him was that he knew you were having a hard time too?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think him seeing how much pain I was in, just being sad, wanting something so bad and not being able to do anything about it. I mean, you're doing everything you can. I was being proactive. I was, staying on top of everything and doing everything that you guys had suggested. And I feel that I tried as much as I could, but some things just aren't in your control. And with this, we had to come to terms with the fact that it wasn't our control. It was under God's control and His hands. So I think that was really hard, and He did His best to support me, but it was still challenging. I think it was hard for Him to see me sad.
Yeah. So I know that what many of our audience tuned in for tonight was, to hear the juicy details of how you actually met your precious son. And what I think is amazing, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is just I had never really, once I've worked with a family through their match or talked to them after their adoption, and we never actually go back and look specifically at the timeline, but I loved today when we were talking and I was able to see in our records sort of when everything sort of fell into place, almost like the milestones of your adoption history. And and it's like each step, just like I know you told me several times, Samantha, just in us coordinating this event tonight, that God had a plan for your family, and you see that now. And I think all of us, whether you're waiting for a child or an answer from a doctor, or if it's about money or just a question you have for Him about whether or not you're on the right stepping stone in His will, that when you get to the place where Samantha's at now, that you look back and see, okay, so each tiny step felt little and maybe even kind of blanketed and uncertain, but now I look back and see, wow, those really were the right motions. That was the right direction, and because now I'm here, and I know you told me earlier you couldn't imagine this any differently.
Exactly.
So let's just talk about the fact that you did actually begin researching not only domestic adoption but lifetime specifically in 2010, right?
Yes.
And so then it took probably about a year for you guys to actually decide we're ready to take that leap?
Actually, it took it took a little more convincing on my husband's part, because I knew, I think on our last IVF, that I was done. It wasn't going to happen. That we got some pretty hard pills to swallow. We learned that we couldn't have children together, and that was difficult. And I think at that moment I knew what I wanted. It just had, for financial reasons, it took a little more convincing with Tom to just get started with that. So we had gotten started with Lifetime in December of 2010, and then became active in August of 11.
Okay. And then when was it that you actually heard about Easton's birth mother, Ariana?
We got a call on Monday, July 9th, and I remember that because it was Tom's dad's birthday. And after speaking to her and basically knowing that it was going to go really good from there, he had called his parents to tell them, and his dad had said it was one of the best birthday presents ever. So I definitely remember that date. But on that day, we got a call from Diane, and she told us about the birth mom and how she wanted to talk to us. And I was at work, and I stepped out of my classroom, and then I came back in, and I told the other teacher, and we're both just in tears and excited. And so Ariana called me later that day, and we spoke for about an hour, and we had instantly hit it off. It was it's kind of awkward. You don't know exactly what you're going to say or what questions to ask or, how the conversation's going to go, and you wonder, well, are they going to like me? And, should I say this or should I hold back on that? And, there's so many, there's a lot of emotions that go along with it. But we talked to her for quite some time and felt really good about it. I think she felt really good about us, and then she called Lifetime on Tuesday, and they called me back on Tuesday and said that she wanted to go with us.
Wow.
Ironic thing was I was planning a visit that weekend to see my sister in South Carolina, which is where she resides right now, and her parents were planning a visit to come visit with her at the Air Force Base, and so we all met up together at an ice cream shop and just got to know each other, and my sister and brother-in-law and 2 nephews came along as well, and my oldest nephew is in a military college right now, and he wants to be in the Air Force, so he had that connection with Ariana. And then my brother and my sister are both really big hikers, and she loves the outdoors. She loves going hiking. So they had that connection as well. And I just feel like it was all divine intervention. It was definitely meant to be. I mean, how ironic is it that we were going to be in, I was already going to be there in South Carolina. So.
So I want to bring up that photo because you were kind enough to number them for me, and I've been kind of skipping around just so that we could have something cute to look at because your little boy is amazing.
Yes.
But I'm going to bring this up here. So if you're joining us online, you can look at your screen. And this was, you guys went out for ice cream, is that right?
Yes.
And so tell us who's in this first picture.
Okay. The man is Bill, and the woman is Terry, and those are both Ariana's parents.
Oh, wow.
And that's Ariana with little baby Easton in her tummy. And
yeah, little.
How far along was she when you guys got to meet in person for the first time?
I want to say she was about 31, 32 weeks.
Wow.
She's a petite thing. Now,
maybe 20, 28 weeks. I'll have to go back on my calendar and look.
Now, and so this was
for that one.
Early or mid-July about, and then she was supposed to be due very early October, right?
Correct.
And so part of what I think is unique and special about your story also is that you not only knew Ariana, but you knew Easton's birth father, Lance, right?
Yes. He is also active duty Air Force, and he is in Delaware. So he's a little bit further north than Ariana, but when Easton was born, he did come to the hospital, and we got to meet him and talk to him for the first time, and we got to get to know him, and it's so crazy how many things we have in common, the 4 of us. We learn how similar him and I are, and then how much Lance and Tom have in common as well. And the funny thing is, a few family members have recently commented on how much Lance and Tom look alike.
They really do. I said the same thing. So I know you talked about just how ironic it was, the timing here, and why I brought up your time frame before was because I looked in the records, and it took Ariana about 4 weeks of working with Lifetime before she actually spoke with you. So by the time you talked to Ariana and to Lance, did they tell you why they had chosen you guys, or kind of the process that they went through to find you, or before that they decided to speak with you? Did they talk at all about what had gone on in those few weeks before you even knew they were looking at you?
Yes. Ariana had, she decided that she wanted to choose an adoption plan for her son. And when she found out that it was a boy, it was really important to her that he had a very hands-on dad. She wanted a dad that was going to be real involved in his life. She wanted a quote-unquote manly man. And she wanted him to be real into like outdoors and sports and everything. So when she was looking through all the profile books, she said that Tom had really, stuck out to her, that he really appealed to her based on what she was looking for in a father for her unborn child. And then it was also really important to her that the mother would stay at home. Her mother stayed at home with her, and so she really wanted that for him as well. And so when she found our profile, I think it just really stuck out to her. She had forwarded all of them to Lance, and then he was looking through them. And a lot of them, he said he just wasn't having a connection with. He wasn't, it just wasn't, each couple wasn't right for him. And then he said he came to ours, and it was like instantly, like he knew it. And he said that he really liked looking at all the pictures of us, playing softball and Tom being outside and everything. So he just instantly knew that we were right. And that's something that I always wondered during the waiting process. I always wondered, well, I wonder what it's going to be that's going to get us picked. And I give Tom 100% credit because they both really liked him.
Well, which is a good point, because I know that a lot of times, and I've heard mostly this from adoptive dads that Lifetime's worked with, that sometimes those adoptive fathers who feel like, okay, finally I'm doing something beyond just my wife's medical appointments with IVF or fertility treatments, and maybe I can really participate in the adoption process. And then they read all the information and hear everything from Lifetime where we're saying, okay, usually birth mothers want to speak more with the adoptive mom, so start out, playing that out and making sure she feels comfortable, and then, just trying to let these men know that you may not get a speaking role right away, but you're very much being watched. You're such an important part of her choice many times, because if you think about it, it's not to say that that a birth mother or even birth parents, as in your situation, that they're not open to single adoptive parents, but a lot of times when you think about why they're choosing adoption, it's sometimes because they want to provide a two-parent married home, because Lance and Ariana, they weren't actually together as a couple, right?
Right.
So they had no plans essentially even to think about raising this baby as a joint venture or in more of a traditional family on their own. And that sounds like that was a big reason why they looked at adoption, was, okay, well, we can actually provide that for him. But I love hearing that, because I just think there's so many different reasons that a birth mother could choose adoptive parents, and I have heard some amazing things like what you just shared, all the way down to, I saw a picture of the adoptive father in the profile wearing elf tights, and I thought, if he could wear those for kids at a hospital, then he'll surely be a fun dad, and what a cool thing, I think, to really let Tom know, okay, you're in on this too, I know that we've been moving through this together, and maybe I'm the one doing a lot of the speaking, but you're a big credit to what's happening here, and how they chose for their son this future.
Right.
I love that.
Samantha, I was wondering, you mentioned you guys put together a video. Did Ariana get to view that video, or did she already choose you before your video was up?
I don't think she ever did. I think she just went based on her profile and our phone conversations. I was actually thinking about that earlier today, because, I was thinking about our video, and I wondered if she had viewed it or not. I remember doing it very quickly just to get it done and over with, because my husband was like, I don't want to do this. I don't like this kind of stuff. And I'm like, but it's going to help us. Come on. And so it was kind of like a rushed video. So I would definitely suggest to other families to take your time with it.
Not too much time.
Exactly. And so I had wondered, if she ever viewed it, because I had always wondered what the adoptive or the birth mothers would think of our video, because it was just so cheesy. So
if you think about it, though, because you were so willing to go meet with her, she may, if you had been available to meet with her, she might have sought your video as a way to just sink a little bit deeper into the connection she had with you already on the phone. So you never know how that could have played out either. It could have been a good backup.
Right.
But I think also just that it's sort of this funny little memory and this little treasure you have for Easton's story, too, is look at this video your dad and I made. But you know what was cool, Kim, that I want Samantha to talk about is how when you went and met with Ariana, you told me earlier today, Samantha, that you brought her a photo album.
Yes. Tom and I had talked about, whenever we first visited her, how we thought that was going to go. And, he had suggested, well, why don't you bring, like, one of our scrapbooks or something for her, just so that she can kind of get a better idea of who we are and see pictures of our family and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, ooh, you know what, maybe I'll make her just like a small little photo album. So I just got like one of those real cheap ones from Target for $1, and I put together a lot of our favorite photos. So it just had, the pictures that we wouldn't necessarily put in our profile book. And so, just silly pictures of Tom and I having fun and being together and our families. And we know that she's a big outdoors person, and she has a truck, and she really likes, to go mudding and stuff like that. So Tom really wanted to put a picture, especially since she was pregnant with a boy. He really wanted me to put a picture of all of his trucks. He owns a lawn and landscaping company and has 8 trucks, I think. And so he has this picture of all of them lined up with the snow plows. And he's like, oh, you got to put that one in there.
That is funny.
So, we just did, pictures like that. And she really enjoyed it.
And so then,
in addition to that, I also bought her a photo album, and it was blue and green and had polka dots on it. And I wrote a little Bible verse in the beginning of the book. And it was basically just a promise to her that, we were going to stay true to our open adoption plan with her, and that we were going to send her photos and stay in contact. And I'm sure the album is already filled up by now, because I cannot stop taking pictures.
And so let's talk about, because I think all of this, obviously, I hope that all of you in the audience can think back to where we first began, where they weren't really even sure about domestic adoption, and here now they're diving in what may seem like the deep end for many of you who are unsure about open adoption, and they're meeting up not only with the birth mother, but now her parents are there, and they're getting to know this baby's father, who also had a huge impact on how they were chosen for this little boy. And so now we're going up to, you weren't matched too long, and then this baby was on the way. And so let's talk about that day you got news that she was going into labor.
Oh my goodness. Well, it was just me on that first visit when we met at the ice cream shop the first time. We had actually gone out again for her 36-week appointment, and she invited us to stay with her. So Tom and I had come for her 36-week appointment and spent a few days with her. We also got to go to the hospital and do a hospital tour. And we did, we had gone for an initial hearing as well in the court in Charleston. So we got that visit as well, which was really nice because she got to meet Tom and bond with him, and they talked about trucks a lot, so that was exciting for Tom. And then the morning she went into labor 6 days before her due date. I had planned on driving out there about 4 or 5 days early so that I could stop in Kentucky to see my mom for a couple days and then go to my sister's house out in South Carolina, which isn't too far from her, so, just so that I could be closer. Well, she had called me on Monday, the 24th of September, and she was in a lot of pain. It was about 6:30 in the morning, and I had jumped out of bed, and I was really concerned because I didn't know if something was wrong, if she was in labor, if it was just, really bad Braxton Hicks. I had no idea what was going on. So she said she was on her way to the hospital and that she would give me a call in a little bit just to let me know what they were saying. And so immediately I call my mom, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, I don't know what to do. I'm like, do I, try to find the closest plane to, out there, or, what do I do? And is the baby okay? Could she be in trouble? Or, is she in labor? What do I do? And my mom's like, well, it's okay. Calm down. Chances are she's in labor, so start looking at flights. And I'm like, oh, brother. And I called Tom, and he got home as soon as he could, and we already had Easton's bags packed. We already had all of his stuff ready to go. It was all sitting out in the hall and some of it in the car. So we got all that packed up into the car, and then I packed up all of my stuff and Tom's stuff, and we got that in the car. And then I just took my carry-on, and I got the soonest flight that I could out to Charleston, and then Tom drove 14 hours. So
wow.
little Easton was very determined to get here, and he was born at 3:20. I got there at 5, or a little after 5, close to 5:30. So I did miss his birth, but it was okay. I was a little bummed because she wanted us to be there, and she wanted me to cut the umbilical cord and everything. And I was really nervous the whole time we were on the plane that he was going to come, and I was like, oh, if it happens, I'm going to be so sad, and I really want to be able to cut his cord and be there and see his birth and everything. But ironically, I was okay with it. It was okay with me that it happened the way it did, and she had her mother there, and maybe that was just another part of God's plan.
Absolutely. And so the photo I just popped up, now this is Ariana. Now, did you take this picture, Samantha, or did Lance take this?
I believe her mother did.
Oh, okay. Which is just, such a treasure, I think, when you can get to the heart that you have for her. I know we talked earlier, too, and I want to make sure we go over this, too, because one of the sweetest and I think most encouraging things you told me is just how much hearing other people's stories and hearing the information that we talk about on these webinars and that we make available to families while they're waiting just prepared you and taught you how to put focus on your child's birth mother. Can you talk a little bit about what that really means? Because I think that that's kind of confusing when you're in a place of thinking, well, I'm paying for the legal fees. I'm the one who's waiting for a child. How do I put focus when there's so many other details to keep track of?
Sure. I'm not exactly sure how to explain how or why I felt that it was so important. I know that, in some of the webinars that I participated in, there are, and even in the paperwork in my binder, I had read and heard that it was important to put focus on the birth mom, to make her feel important, to ask her questions, and not put so much focus on the baby and wondering about the baby and, asking so many questions about the baby. And so that first conversation, I don't think I really asked much at all about the baby other than, she told me the due date and that kind of stuff. But I focused on her. I focused on her pregnancy and how she was feeling and, her family and her likes and interests and everything. And I really can't explain why I chose to do that, or you know, I'm not really sure. As soon as her and I started to develop a relationship, it just felt right. It just, you know, she's almost become like a little sister to me, and I have so much love for her. She's an amazing person.
What was that like? When you started to feel those feelings, did they shock you a little bit?
Yeah. It's hard to talk about her and not get choked up.
Well, I'll choke you up a little bit more here, Samantha, because I want to share. As recent as last night, we got an email from Ariana just in one of our follow-ups. Oh, great. Am I going to lose it here? As we followed up with Ariana, because it, you know, really hasn't been that much time since she gave birth, and Lifetime, once the baby's born, we're not just like, okay, thanks, that was great to know you, now take care. We stay in touch. We send care packages after. We want her to know that we're still available, the counseling's still available, not only that if she needs us, but that if she needs to reach Samantha and Tom for some reason and can't get a hold of them, that she can still reach out to us. And so she responded last night and just was telling Diane how she'd been taking it easy and laying low, and that she had gotten a little box of gifts that Diane had sent, and then this sentence, these two sentences she wrote are just the sweetest thing to me. And I think, Samantha, this is totally attributed to how you and Tom were willing to really just care about her as a person and not just a means to your dream of parenthood, but also just how much it shows that you were so sincere to her and just being yourselves and being honest and making a real relationship. She wrote, Tom and Samantha are wonderful people. The best possible has truly come out of this situation for Easton because of them. And I read that and I thought, you know, how often do families who are hoping to adopt not give themselves credit for understanding the impact that they're making on their child's birth mother, that it's not only about being chosen, but that you're not only showing her a commitment, but you're showing her maybe a type of person that she needs to be reminded are out there, and also reassuring her, you know, that you made a good choice with us. We're going to keep our word, and we're going to keep our promise to your child. And Samantha, I just love that everything you've done has truly shown her that you are also keeping your commitment to just staying in touch with her. Because I know that's a big question for a lot of families too, is, well, once you have that baby home, I mean, has it ever crossed your mind to not stay in touch with her at this point now that it's been a few weeks?
No. There's no way. I put myself in her shoes, and I always have. And so many friends and family members, when, you know, I share my story and talk about our adoption process and our journey and everything, they will, you know, they say, I don't think I could ever do that. How is she doing that? And, you know, how is she giving her child up? And, you know, they use the negative, quote unquote, the negative adoption language. And I just, you know, I've done my best to educate everyone on what an open adoption is, and that she's not, quote unquote, giving him up. She's choosing what's best for him. And while some of us may not be able to make that decision, she has, and I am forever grateful for her and just everything she's done so far, and, you know, the process that she's going through. And, you know, it's not over just because he's been born and he's with us. It's not over for her. She's still grieving, and she's still going through things herself. And not a day goes by that I don't think about her. She's such an amazing person. She's such a beautiful person. And each time I look at Easton, I see her in him. And I just hope that he can be just like her. I want him to be everything that she is. She's sweet and kind and has such a big heart.
I just love that. I brought up the photo of Ariana, and this is Lance, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I think a lot of families too sometimes wonder what will that even be like in the hospital. You know, can you describe, did it go smoothly? Did you just feel like this is just how it's supposed to go, or did you feel like you kind of had to think twice about you know, who should be where, when? I mean, what was that time like in those couple short days when you were just, it looks to me like you were spending a lot of time together, maybe even getting to know each other more through these couple days after the birth.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I don't think we talked about that before. So a lot, in honesty, but a lot of, you know, family members and friends had asked about the whole hospital experience, and you know, we've had people ask, well, were you scared, or did you feel that she could have changed her mind, or you know, a lot of those type of questions. And from the moment I got there until the moment I left, it never once crossed my mind that she would change her mind. It never, I never had any overwhelming feelings, or there was no, I don't think, any awkwardness or anything like that. The hospital staff was really accommodating towards us and very sweet and kind and compassionate. They treated her very well. And when they after they took her out of the birthing suite, they put her in a recovery room, and then they put us in a recovery room. So we got to stay with Easton in a recovery room down the hall from her. And if I could backtrack a little bit, on the 36-week appointment, after we did the hospital tour, we talked a lot about, you know, how that day would go when he's born. And I asked her how she felt about it. I asked her, you know, if she wants to spend time with him, or if she thinks she would feel more comfortable, you know, maybe being in a different room from us, or, you know, like how she would feel the most comfortable. And originally she didn't think she wanted to have that much contact. She didn't want it to be harder on her, so she didn't want to spend a lot of time together at the hospital and stuff like that. Now, when Easton came, it was a little different. And was that okay with me? Absolutely. I've been telling her ever since the beginning, she's never going to have this time back. And I don't ever want to take anything away from her. So if she wants to hold him, she can have all the time she wants, because she knew in her mind and her heart that choosing an adoption plan and choosing Tom and I as his parents was the right thing. So it never really crossed my mind that, well, if she holds them, then she might change her mind. Or if she spends too much time with them, then it's going to be harder on her and she won't want to do it anymore. Or, you know, those kind of feelings never really crossed my mind, ever. I just wanted her to be able to cherish those moments, because, like I said, you can't go back in time. You can't. I didn't want her to ever have any regret and feel like, I wish I would have held them. I wish I would have spent time with them. And so I did my best to not make her uncomfortable, but to also allow her any opportunity to spend time with him.
And so, because now you and Tom were from Missouri, and Easton was born in, you said, South Carolina or North Carolina?
South Carolina, and her family lives in North Carolina. Okay.
And so while you were out there, because with most interstate adoptions, you have to stay out of state for, well, we say 1 to 2 weeks. Sometimes it can be a little shorter. Sometimes it can be longer. How did you guys spend your time out there? You know, once the baby was released from the hospital, did you guys make plans to get together again? Did you see each other before you traveled back to Missouri?
We did not see each other again. We had to stay one more day because Easton had a VSD, which is a small hole in his heart. So the day after we were released, we had to go downtown and go to the children's hospital. So we had to, get some tests done and everything for that. But we called her afterwards just to let her know, what the doctor had said and keep her updated with all of that. Mm-hmm. But we both chose to just, to kind of do our own thing, and I think her emotions were high, and I think she felt more comfortable with just not getting together before we went back home. Mm-hmm. And so we stayed one night in a hotel, and then we went up into the mountains where my sister lives, and we were able to stay with her. So we kind of lucked out there. We didn't have to pay for a hotel for almost 2 weeks, but
wow, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And that's, if you're on the call tonight and you even have questions about just the logistics of interstate adoption, that sometimes it gets down to just sometimes it depends on the states involved or the state where you're at, but that I can't tell you how many times I've heard these stories where, they have family nearby where their baby was born, and it just, because I think most people are thinking, well, what would that be like to be away from home? Were you guys anxious to get home?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Tom, being a business owner, mm-hmm. he had to have all of his stuff with him, our computer and, all of his binders and his work and stuff. So that was kind of hard for him, just being away from his job and being away from his normal routine, his work routine and everything. I think it was more hard on him. I love being away. It was a mini vacation for me, so it didn't bother me any. Mm-hmm. But I think it bothered Tom more so, just with the whole work aspect of it. I really enjoyed getting to spend that time with my sister and being, with family. I think it would have been different had we been in a hotel the whole time. Mm-hmm. But we actually had dishwasher, microwave, wash machine, mm-hmm. and dryer. And so we, considering our circumstances, I was happy. It wasn't too hard on me.
So now
but I wasn't eager to get home.
Right. I brought up this picture of Lance and Easton and Tom, and I think this is such a special photo because, well, again, like we were talking about earlier today, Samantha, it's not unusual that Lance was involved, but it's also not as common. And so what a special thing. I know that you titled this photo, My Boys. Mm-hmm. Do you also still make plans to keep in touch with Lance as you will with Ariana in the future?
Yes, and I actually, him and I communicate through text. Mm-hmm. We text each other every so often, more so me texting him. I think it's crazy how much him and Tom are alike, but he's just one of those guys, he's not really going to go above and beyond for the mushiness or anything like that. So I'll send him a text and he responds and everything, but he's great. He's very funny and outgoing and happy-go-lucky, and so he just fits well into our lives.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know, Samantha, did you know that Ariana and her mother were going to join us tonight in the audience?
No.
Oh. Well, they were very sweet to type in, and
I knew Cherry was wanting to, but I didn't know. Didn't know Ariana was. So hi.
Well, they popped up and surprised Kim and I, and I just said, if there's anything you guys want me to make sure that people hear tonight, and Cherry wrote, it's important to emphasize how hard of a decision it is for the birth mother. Tom and Samantha have been so loving and understanding. They have sent both Ariana and us pictures and have sent Ariana special gifts. Shortly after the birth, Ariana wanted to have less contact because it's a difficult time, which is really a normal thing. Most of the birth mothers that we've worked with go through that and may even want a little bit of space, but she continues. And they respected her request. She's doing better now, and the contact is special and wonderful. And above, she had written just their warmth and love has meant so much to us, and just respecting. I love that word, respecting her wishes, because Samantha, I would say that that's the theme of your overall story so far, is just that not only did you have the faith and the obedience to just continue to follow God's calling for your family, but that once he introduced you to the second set of a family, I mean, there's a whole family going on here, that you continued to put that respect first, that you and Tom could look at that and think, okay, it's not just about us anymore. It's not even just about this baby. Now it's this opportunity to have a relationship unlike anything that we could create on our own. And I don't know about you, but I read those and I just thought, wow, if I were Samantha, that would get a big lump in my throat to read these words.
I know, I have a lump in my throat right now.
And so, Cherry and Ariana, I just want to thank you for putting those words together, because, when we share these adoption stories, it's not at all to ever make it sound like one side has it easier than the other, or to look out for certain things or anything. What I hope comes across in each of these adoption stories is just how truly unique each story is, because the individuals that come together through open adoption, they are precious and so unique on both sides, on both the adoptive family and the birth family side. And that truly is what paints this future for this little boy. And I know this picture here, it looks like all four of them have their hands over him. Is that what's going on here?
And you can see his tiny little fingers on there, too.
Oh, I do see that now. I didn't see that before. Oh, you guys are clever.
Oh, that is so cute.
Right in the middle, underneath Tom's thumb. That's priceless. And we've had kind of a quiet audience tonight, I think, just because everyone's just really just into this story. And Samantha, I know how excited you were to come on tonight and to talk with us, and that there are so many other aspects that we could even go into. Just what is it that's on your heart tonight to either encourage the waiting families or to help the other families who are still preparing to take a leap into adoption? What's on your heart for the people listening in tonight to hear?
A few things, really. Most importantly, just trust in the Lord and know that He has a plan for you, that you will become parents, and don't get discouraged, don't give up, because your time will come just like ours did. And another big thing that I want to get across is to be proactive. Libby and Kim can tell you that I was very proactive in the process. I was researching, I was constantly asking questions, and at one point my husband kind of teased me about, they probably think you're like really annoying. You're always asking questions. And I'm like, well, but being proactive is just, I feel, very important to your process, to your journey, because the more you know, the more educated you are, I think the better off you're going to be. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I would like to say is just, with the holidays, I had mentioned before how hard that was. Mm-hmm. Just being alone. You have your husband, and for some of you, you may already have a child or two, but when you want something so bad and it's not there yet, and you question, why it hasn't happened, it's hard, and to go through the holidays without that that happiness that you're longing for, it can be quite challenging. So I just want, I want to encourage those families to just stay strong and know that soon you will have your family.
Thank you, Samantha. That is so sweet. And I just want to give a last call out. If any of you have any questions that you want Samantha to answer for you tonight, feel free to type them in here before we wrap up. And again, if you have questions that you'd rather share with us one-on-one, or that maybe apply more to your personal adoption journey or future in adoption, you are welcome to contact us. You can always reach us at 530-432-7373, or you can always email Kim or me. My name is Libby, and my email is libby@lifetimeadoption.com. And Kim is at kim@lifetimeadoption.com. And Samantha, we have a lot of people typing in right now just thanking you so much for sharing your story, and some people even just talking about, how much their heart reaches out for the women who are considering or who have chosen adoption as birth mothers. And so we just have a very grateful audience tonight. I want to thank everyone for joining us too, as we moved through Samantha's story, and that I know too, just like we had it last month when Della joined us, but Samantha has graciously told me that if any of you could use her support or have questions for her that you'd rather email or connect with her one-on-one, that we can help arrange that for you too. So you can always reach out to your lifetime coordinator, and she's happy to be an extra resource for you, or an extra support, or just to share her experience. Because I know actually part of your story, Samantha, that just amazed me. And again, I just look at when people are called to adoption, what I've seen throughout my years here is just how much it's more than just becoming parents, that it's not only about the connection you're making with women who may never even choose adoption, but that learn something maybe even about themselves through reading the profiles of waiting families, but also about ultimately, your child's birth parents and how you can be a blessing in their life and they in yours. But then also, you're the community of people touched by adoption now, and how much of a resource you have in each other to just be able to connect and learn from each other's experiences, be encouraged by each other's successes, and validated through each other's losses and trials. Because I was just jaw-dropped earlier when you told me, Samantha, that one of Lifetime's families who has adopted from us twice, actually, was a great help to you when you were in your early stages of becoming matched. And I think that's such a treasure that you guys could also be there for each other. And so I just want to thank you again, Samantha, for just coming on tonight and sharing, and send a thank you over to Tom for keeping Easton settled in the back.
Absolutely.
What a good baby.
I know.
I think they're actually in the nursery right now changing a poopy diaper. So.
Oh, good.
Poor Tom.
That's cute, because you guys were weren't you just changing when we got on our call tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's funny. So, and also I want to just remind all of you to keep your eye on your email, because I have some other amazing guests coming up this month to celebrate Adoption Month, and to help you where you're at as you prepare for the child that you're moving closer to every day. So I hope that this call was encouraging, and if you have feedback or questions after tonight's call, again, please email or contact us, because we want to hear from you. We want to continue to put out resources through these webinars that will help you, inspire you, and just really meet you where you're at and with what you need, so that when your time comes, you feel as ready as possible to say yes and be there for your child's birth mom too. Mm-hmm. So, Samantha,
Libby, can I read this comment from Emily?
Absolutely.
It says, "Thank you, Samantha, so much. It was a wonderful story that has helped me understand open adoption more. Also, thanks to Ariana for her gift and the support signing in tonight. This was a great webinar. My husband and I greatly enjoyed this story. Thanks. Can't wait for the next webinar. Have a great night." Thank you, Emily, for typing that in.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And they all loved your pictures too. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you again to everyone for joining us. I don't really see any pending questions here tonight, just a lot of praise and a lot of thanks. And so I just want to say, bless you all for being here and for celebrating with Samantha and allowing her to encourage and share with you tonight. So we will talk with you all again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.